We all long to live a courageous life of significance. We all want to be the example to our children and do big things that change the world. However, at the end of the day, the bills are calling, and the busyness of life often keeps us from stepping boldly into our dream and passion. Join Angie Taylor, a 30-year veteran educator and co-founder of Valor Global Online and Valor Global Foundation, if you long to leave a legacy for your family and leave your mark on the world. This show is for you. This is the Way of Valor.
Hey, welcome to the Way of Valor. I am your host, Angie Taylor. Hey, did you know that 58% of people in the United States of America actually set New Year's resolutions, but a staggering 9% of people actually accomplish those New Year's resolutions? In fact, 23% of people actually quit the resolutions within the very first week of January, and by the end of January of each year, 48% of people have quit those New Year's resolutions. So I'm here to talk to you about how do you become part of the 9%, part of the people that are setting goals, setting tasks for yourself to accomplish throughout the new year. Because let's all face it, we set New Year's resolutions because we want something better for ourselves, better for our families, and more out of life. That's why we set New Year's resolutions. In fact, when you talk to people that don't set the New Year's resolution, the only reason they don't is because they are afraid they will fail. It's not because they don't think they're valuable or important or life could be better for me. It's because they fear failure so much that they're not even going to try. So here's the deal. This podcast is for you if not only do you want to try to set New Year's resolutions to try to improve your life, the quality of your family's life, but you also want to keep those resolutions. I want to talk to those of you that want to be in the 9%. You want more out of your life for your family, for your business, and for your overall well-being. Here's what I can tell you is we know that actually setting resolutions is biblical. The scripture tells us time and time again to write things down. So the first thing I can tell you is writing things down is so valuable. I'm going to just give you some very quick tips. We're going to take maybe 20 minutes today to just give you, here's what I look at doing every year. And do I accomplish all my resolutions every single year? 100%. No. But have I made massive strides historically in years past because of the practices that I've been keeping? Yes. And I'm just going to give you some of those things. The number one thing that I started doing that was a game changer, guys, if you want to take your New Year's resolutions from maybe I might make it through January to no, I'm making it all year long. The number one thing you can do is if you are married, share it with a spouse, become accountable with a spouse, and actually partner with a spouse. This is probably the most powerful practice my husband and I have on an annual basis. This week between December 25th and January 1st is our week that we always take a night away, a day away to go through some very great questions. Listen, you don't have to make this complicated. I can share a list of questions. In fact, if you want us to share out, here's the list we're doing this year. Just tag me or email me. We are happy to send out, here's the questions we're doing. But literally, if you do a quick Google search, you're going to find some great resolution questions. One of the mistakes that I see people make all of the time is they set a massive amount of New Year's resolutions without any kind of reflection. That's the most powerful practice you can keep. My husband and I sit down. We talk about, number one, what were our big wins in the last year? And we talk about this from a personal standpoint as well as a couple's family standpoint. My husband's in my business with me, and so we talk about it from the business standpoint. We cover every one of these areas. What were our great wins this year? This is an important thing because sometimes if you are visionary, if you're like I live in the future. So a lot of times I won't stop and celebrate a win. I just keep moving to the next thing, or the win wasn't quite what I had hoped and I want a little bit more. Listen, there's some things to be said for that, but there's also something to be said to take a moment and take stock of where your wins were. We always sit and celebrate our wins. We celebrate our wins on a spiritual basis, on a family basis, on a personal health basis, and on a business basis. Those are the 4 areas that we stay focused on. These are the things that we care deeply about and wrap our lives around. Are we winning in these areas? The 5th would be extended community. That's really important. Celebrate your wins. The second thing is an honest evaluation of, where did we fail this year? Where are we missing the mark? I can tell you, for me personally, it ends up being, hey, I hate some of the ways I used my time. In fact, for me, I'm a morning person. I love mornings. I'm very structured, routine in the morning, but I hit my evenings and my brain is undone and tired. And so that's where my time needs to be more accountability and more goal setting. Not that I don't have restful time, but the restful time is intentional restful time. That's a really big deal. Like, what does that look like? Meaningless scrolling, or does it look like rest that actually rejuvenates me? For example, for me, my goal would be, I have dinner. After dinner, I always go for a walk right after dinner. That is a game-changing practice that I implemented this year. And when the weather permitted, I was very good at it. And the reason it was a game-changing practice is it set the course for the rest of my night. I was active, I moved, I got some more energy in me to finish out my night strong. And very rarely did I then want to just sit and do meaningless scrolling. If I did end up in the evening with a meaningless scroll, what it looked like was a time boxed period that was a much shorter time frame than had I eaten dinner and just sat down and was like, I'm exhausted. And I want to tell you this, I did not feel like going for that walk initially, but after we started practicing the habit of it, game changer. So again, I don't want to get in the weeds of my goals, but the thing that I want to tell you is it's important to evaluate where you're failing and be really honest about that, because when you do that, you can, and when you can take ownership of it. What I see a lot of times is when people fail, I've been guilty of this. When we fail, we blame everything else. If our income wasn't the way we wanted it to be, we blame the economy, we blame lack of a degree, we blame whatever it is. And the truth is as long as there's an excuse for your failure, you will never be successful. It doesn't mean that there aren't, like, listen, the economy was hard this year. I haven't talked to anybody that didn't say the economy hit them this year. However, were you doing additional things or everything you knew to do to guard your income, earn more income, get the degree you need to get? What were you doing that could contribute to your overall success? We need to look at things. If you will look at this year as a seed planting year, that was another game changer for me, to go from New Year's resolutions of, I want to be fit and strong, to what are the seeds that I need to plant consistently, because what do I want to reap? Being really clear about the seeds that have to be reaped is very important. If I want to be strong and fit and finish the year strong and fit, and I am proud as heck to say I'm probably ending the year more strong and fit than I've been in a long time. But I will tell you, my husband and I were very intentional about taking back our health this year, and we were incredibly successful. But again, we were acknowledging where we were failing it. And it wasn't just, we eat too much. We don't exercise enough. It was, you know what? here's when I go off the rails. Like, I fail in the evenings. I've already said this. Evenings are hard on me. I am a morning person. I have no energy in the evening. And so figuring out how to hack that, be accountable to that, was what I needed to do. So if you will acknowledge, here's where I won. My husband and I have learned so much more from our failures than we've ever learned from our wins. When we acknowledge our failures, we acknowledge the very real problems that were in our way, the very real barriers. I'm not saying we don't acknowledge, man, these were the hard things, but we look at what's the role that I played in those failures? Where was I contributing to the lack of success? And when we did that, it was really clear to see for us, when we decided, hey, we're taking back our health this year, we ended up going to functional doctors and getting blood work done and getting really down to the wire of, here's what your body needs to have a successful year. We're in our 50s. We have one grandbaby, another one on the way, and we want nothing more as the fruit of our lives to be highly energetic, live as long as the Lord gives us breath, but live a really quality life, to invest in our family, to invest in our grandkids and our children's children. So that was a key to, when you're looking at the failure, acknowledging, here are the very real barriers. Here's the way I contributed to it. And here's what I can contribute to the success. Third, what should you keep doing? Like, okay, so I look at my wins, I looked at my losses. What should you keep doing? Because the reality is sometimes we came to the end of the year, I looked at a loss and went, but I don't actually care that much about that loss. So we're going to go ahead and take that off the list as we actually just don't care enough. It sounds good. Other people thought it was a good idea for us. I can't tell you how many things, especially in business for me, time and time again, I've had people go, oh, you should be doing this if you want your business to be successful. And I picked it up thinking, okay, this is what makes a successful business, where we ended the year and we were like, that's not a core value for us. We don't actually care about those things. Our highest priority isn't to have the most massive influencer campaign on the planet. That's not one of my highest priorities. Have I invested time historically in that? I have. And what I can tell you is we ended the year going, oh, that's not a value for us. We want to be a voice to those who are looking for our voice. That's it. Like, we want to be a somebody that encourages the people that want their lives to exponentially change. We know God's given us some keys in our life, and it's all God in our life. We've failed in many ways, but God has been the protector. So we talk about what are the things we should keep doing, looking at our wins. Were there things about our win that we can pour more gasoline on? And it can be, do we just need to keep going? Again, we talked about our health. Can we pour gasoline on our marriage? What are ways to do that? In fact, one of the things we're going to do, and I'll share it out with you, is a build your marriage out template that I'm purchasing the kit. So I'm happy to share with you the one that we're going to use, but that's something that we're going to spend time on this year. We also spend time looking at what conferences or trainings or coaching do we want to get. Those have been key moments in our business. I would say in particular for us, they've been catalyst moments for our company and our business. But what are the conferences? Who are we growing from this year? So again, so number one is, what are your wins? Number two is, what are your failures? Number three is, what should you pour gasoline on? In other words, where can you keep growing? Where have you seen some success that, man, you can probably build on that? The truth is conferences are massive. And again, for us, doing it together puts us both on the same page, moving in the same direction, holding each other accountable. If you know Adam Taylor, what you know is, holy smokes, I don't know somebody in my life more committed to be disciplined than my husband when he makes a commitment. When he says, hey, I'm doing this, he far exceeds my ability, and he often is the guy that's challenging me to not quit, to not give up, to keep going. So make sure you're doing this with somebody. What are the things that you need to bring closure to in your life? This is something that I historically have been very bad at. In fact, I would say it's a failure of mine historically. And that is, I prolong and allow situations to go on because I am an incredibly optimistic person. I, I want the best. And the truth is, and I just got done reading the book I always read over break, which I really enjoy, but I just got done with the book Necessary Endings, which I strongly recommend for everyone. It seems like a business book, but I think it's a personal book too. And he really talks about this principle, and this really helped me understand what are the things you need to bring it to a closure. What are the things you want to leave in 2024? The reality is as the earth was made, God made the earth to grow and multiply. But the fact is often when we grow and multiply, we don't prune. And so you end up, and you see this a lot in the forestry service. My dad was a forester when I was a kid. So we had these conversations a lot of the forest gets overrun. So when a fire comes through and wipes it out, it actually a lot of times is healthy for a forest if the fire doesn't grow too hot, because it thins it down and brings it into a more healthy state. And what I can tell you is that's the same is true of our life. If we have a rose bush, if we have anything that is growing, an apple tree, anything growing, in order to produce the most fruit, pruning has to take place. The healthiest trees, the healthiest rose bushes, anything in nature gives you examples of this. Pruning is essential, and pruning is cutting off, leaving behind something in order for you to produce more fruit, to produce healthier fruit. So that is an important question that historically I've never done. And that is, what do I need to stop doing? What are relationships I'm in I need to walk away from? What are the things that maybe we are doing because at one point in our company it worked, or at one time in our relationship it worked, but now that we're empty nesters, our life looks different. So we need to move from that practice over to this practice. That's an important part of your journey and growth process, is what should you bring to a close? Number 5, who helps you grow? And I've kind of been talking about this all the way through. Who are the voices who are the people you either want to get in the room with them? Man, don't feel like you have to know somebody or somebody needs to acknowledge or know you. Get in the room. In fact, I have a good friend, Hannah. I'm going to give you a shout out, my friend in Germany. Hannah picked up my podcast and started listening to my podcast. We'd never met. She DM'd me a few times just saying, hey, I enjoyed this podcast. Super encouraging to me to know anybody listens to it and gets anything out of it. But then what I love about Hannah is when I opened up my Mama Bears book club, Hannah was one of the first people to join and sign up for that book club. She is putting herself in the room of people that she wants to grow from. And I can tell you that is a practice for me. If you know me at all, I actually do know a lot of people in a lot of different sectors, but it is because there is a very intentional effort to try to get in the room, not to be known myself, but to learn, to glean from people that are doing something different or better than I'm doing it. And being very intentional about who is that, where is that? When you're at church, we just went through a big move this year. We transitioned here down to the Austin area and have not gotten super plugged into a church. And what I can tell you is community is key. If you and your spouse are not in a community together, it's actually key for the health of your marriage. When you know the same people and you enjoy company with people, it brings a vibrancy and more talking points and more texture to your marriage and to your life together. And so your community is really, really important. And I think community is incredibly hard. I think it's the harder the older your kids get, especially if they're out of the house as empty nesters, because now you don't get to rely on your kids to build your friendships. You have to go out and seek them out. But I also can think of nothing more important than your community. In fact, it is community, and the people you hang with are the number one cause of longevity. There's so much research on the elderly dying shortly after they retire, because often they get isolated and they no longer have community, and they no longer have a significant purpose driving them forward, a reason to get up every day. Community helps give those things. I strongly recommend that that's a conversation that you guys have. How are you going to be intentional about it? And then finally, just what are the ways you're going to have fun and play this year? Again, this is not, I am a workhorse, goal oriented person, and fun and play are not typically things that I add into this. But what I have discovered is it is essential to incorporate. What are the things, like, for example, my husband and I just picked up pickleball. One of our goals for this upcoming year will be to actually do a lot more pickleball, play it on a regular practice, because it's a great way to get into community, but it's also a great exercise with one another. It's fun. It gets us out of the house. All of the things. It may not be that for you, whether it's a walk or whatever it is. What are the ways, what are the practices you're going to keep that are actually unplugging you, enjoyable, that aren't mindless scrolling, that aren't social media? It gets you off the couch and gets you either outside with your kids or having fun in some way. That's essential. Especially, I think about, this is such a video gaming age. Like, how are we getting our kids unplugged from technology? How are we getting them in nature? How are we having fun with them? And then for us, are we also scheduling in vacation time? Like, what's that going to look like for us? Where are our breaks? I love to work, people. I truly enjoy the work that I do. It's very meaningful, which is a gift to me. I get to work with my husband. And what I can tell you is even with my job being something I really enjoy in the community, something I love, we need to find places to unplug, because there is healing that happens in our brains when we allow our brains to rest from striving. 2024 was a year where my word was rest. And it wasn't a rest from work, but it was a rest from striving. And I will tell you, I'm ending the year feeling somewhat successful at that. Not 100%, but I feel good about some of the practices I implemented that actually helped me move from that place of constant striving and struggle to that place of, I'm working from rest. I'm working from being refreshed by God. I'm working from being refreshed by play. All of those things are really, really important. So let me recap really quickly for you. I hope this was a very useful podcast for you, that this will be, you become the 9%. And here's what I'm going to tell you about it. You don't have to, like, historically, I think we set 4 to 5 goals, sometimes 3. I usually have a word of the year and then do goal setting. Here's what I can tell you. I don't remember how many years ago it was that exercise was yet again. I do know, it was 2009. I actually set the goal to run a marathon. At that point, I couldn't even run 2 miles, but I said by the end of this year, I will run a marathon. I set that goal. I partnered with my brother. I partnered with one of my very dear friends. She also was, none of us were running, but we said, this is the marathon. We signed up for it as early as we could. Guys, we ran and accomplished that goal, but it set the course of action for my life of consistent exercise. We followed a plan where we were running 3 to 5 days a week. We always had the long run days on Saturdays. We had partnership. We were faithful to it, and it set the course. And I can honestly say from then, I've always had some kind of exercise routine that I've been able to successfully accomplish. I do not say that as a point of bragging. I say that as a point of, do you understand, for me going into 2025, setting the goal for exercise is no longer the challenge. I show up at the gym. My husband and I go to the gym usually 4 to 5 days a week. And that's it. It's not a struggle for us to make it there. It's become a practice that we keep. It's kind of like my devotions. At some point in my life, I don't even remember when devotions in the morning were a goal that I wanted to do. My husband just finished his 12th year straight of reading the Bible through in the year. I joined him a couple years about reading the Bible through in a year. This year, this 2024, I decided I wanted to do more topical studies. I did that, but 2025, I'm joining him again in the reading the Bible through in a year. Those are no longer struggles to keep. Like, I'm not worried of are we going to be able to keep those? So this is what I want to encourage you on, is sometimes you're going to finish a year and go, man, out of the 4 or 5 goals we set, I failed at 3 of them, but you're going to pick up 1 or 2 that now all of a sudden become a part of your life. And so do you understand, out of the 5 goals, there are 2 that are normal practices for me that they'll still be a part. Like, I want to uptick just a little bit my exercise. I want to uptick, like, I have goals in them, but the struggle isn't getting to the gym. And so that's what I want to encourage you on, is even if you're doing 1 goal, 2 goals, and can I just tell you this, if your health is not your number 1 goal, you're missing it. And here's why I tell you that, is because you will find, I can guarantee you, when you get your health in order, when you start exercising, when you start getting some discipline in telling your body, no, I'm not just going to do what I feel like doing. I'm going to do the thing that produces the fruit in my life that I want to see. You will be amazed at how my husband and I set the goal of our health. Our finances followed that. Everything follows that, because the level of discipline you acquire improves the overall quality. And at the end of the day, none of this is meant as a breaking point. It's meant as a point of, guys, you can live a life like we end 2024 absolutely having failures. No doubt. No doubt. But I end 2024 profoundly proud and grateful for the year that we just had. Ready to go and pour some more gasoline on a few things, thinking 2025 is poised to be such a great year. But it's all in God's hands, right? He goes before us. He does it. And then the final thing I'll say is pray. Take time to pray over it. I spent time this morning just by myself, just interceding, saying, God, what do you have for us this year? What does this year look like? What word do you have for me this year? What thoughts do you want me to pick up this year? What are the pieces? Because at the end of the day, none of it's about my success. None of my goals are about Angie Taylor just wants to be successful and ambitious and my goal is, but God, are you pleased with me? Have I brought you glory? Have I helped make your name known? Because what I believe is He is the hope of the nations. What I believe is He is a steadfast rock that transforms lives. And He has changed my life exponentially, and the peace and joy that I have in His presence is like none other. And I want it. I want this gift desperately. It's why I show up to do this podcast, because I want the gift of Jesus Christ to invade every one of your lives and your home. And it is my hope and my prayer that 2025 is your very best year yet. Much love to you. Happy New Year.